Good morning. Welcome back to Enneagram Mom Interviews. I'm Whitney Ellison with Ellison Enterprises, and I did get a new wireless booster, so I'm hoping the reception is great today. If it gets a little sticky, we'll jump off and jump back on again just to make sure that everything is okay. In the meantime, today's episode, we have Adrianne Hillman, who's from Tulare, California. She's a 7 wing 8, a mother of 3 boys. And before we get started with her, I want to again explain that the Enneagram is a wonderful tool for developing self-awareness and empathy, and that our mission with this show is to amplify moms' voices by telling our stories, honoring our differences, and offering useful tips from each mom's specific Enneagram strengths that will help all moms and all parents everywhere. A special thank you today to Fit Philosophy for sponsoring this episode. Fit Philosophy is a local gym with virtual workouts available, and they are giving away access to a virtual fit camp session. That's an entire 4 weeks of fit camp, virtual access. You can get it live or emailed to you if you have to miss the early morning classes. Starts next Monday on the 19th. It is a $150 value. So if you comment during this episode, you will enter for a chance to win this giveaway. And again, I will remind you later on in the episode. So with that being said, again, Adrianne Hillman is joining us from Tulare, California, 7 wing 8, our first 7 of the series, and she's a mama of 3 boys, and we're going to learn more about her now. And I'm going to put my headphones in.
I'm connected.
Hey, look,
It worked.
this is working pretty well. Are you there?
Yes.
Okay. All right. You're still processing on my end. There you are. You look live now. Okay.
Okay.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, good
Look
morning.
alive.
Yes. Yes. And it's
Okay.
7
Good
a.m.
morning.
Pacific time zone, right? So thank you for getting up early for me.
It's okay. I'm actually not in Tulare. I'm actually in Cayucas, but on the beach side. And so this is actually, it's harder to wake up here because you can hear the ocean. Yeah. Am I doing okay? I see the wheel going. Are we doing okay on Wi-Fi?
Yes, it's a little sluggish. I'm going to let's see here. So far you seem live. So I'm going to stay with it, and if we get choppy, then I might just walk upstairs with you on.
Okay. Same if I need to move. Tell me.
Okay. All right. Sounds good.
Okay.
So anyway, hi friend. I miss you. How are
Hi.
you?
I am well. I'm a little hoarse today. I actually went body surfing with the boys yesterday.
Nice.
Let's just jump right into my 7 nest. Yeah.
Hoarse.
So I'm a little bit hoarse today, but I'm well. Yeah, I'm well.
Good.
The kids are out of school here today. Are they in Kentucky? Are they out of school?
Fall break after 3 weeks of being back in school.
Okay.
Great. And my babysitter's sick, so living the pandemic dream over here. So yes.
Girl, I'm sorry.
All good. It's cool because the husband works from home, so we just pinch hit as we need. So that's cool. Well, let's talk about you. So I want you to tell our audience, because I know a lot about you. Tell me about yourself, who you are, and what you are up to these days.
Okay. So I'm Adrianne Hillman, obviously. We already went over that. I grew up a lifelong resident of Central California. So grew up in a rural area near dairy. My family's in the dairy industry, and never really moved away. And yeah, sometimes I say unfortunately, sometimes I say fortunately. It kind of depends on what I'm talking about. Yeah, I'm a trained life coach, and that's, kind of what I was doing by trade prior to what I'm doing now. I am the CEO of a nonprofit, Salt and Light Works, where our mission is to cultivate community with homes, dignity, dignified jobs, through micro enterprise and whatnot for our chronically homeless neighbors. So I'm doing that now. I raised 3 boys and super fun. 17, Carson's 17, Bennett is 13, almost 14, and Easton is 11.
Wow, all
So
above 10.
yeah, busy life. I'm married to Scott, and he is my second husband. And that has been just an absolute delight. He is a wonderful human. And in a lot of ways, I have found a lot of freedom inside that marriage. And so I think that has what's propelled me in a lot of ways to really step out of my comfort zone and into harder things as I've gotten older. So yeah, kind of what I'm up to. I love life. I love food. I love all things because I'm a 7. So that's just how it goes.
So tell me, like, before we even get to the next question, tell me what like led you to understand that you were a 7? What really brought it home for you?
Well, I mean, it's interesting when I tested, which I know is not always everyone's favorite way of kind of figuring out what you are, but I tested between a 7 and a 2. And I mean, I definitely grew up in a culturally traditional way where I know that women in a lot of ways can be mistaken for 2s, even if that's not their real number.
Sure. Mm-hmm.
I knew that. I went in knowing that culturally I would look like a 2, and I know some of my helper nature, and a lot of that is around, being a woman and feeling like I'm supposed to.
Mm-hmm.
But when I looked at the 7 results, I mean, it was like, okay, they wrote my story. So, I mean, it was all of it. But I'm somebody who is spontaneous. I love so many things. I'm so passionately curious that I think those things on the Enneagram really, but with Enneagram, when you figure out your number, I don't know about you, Whit, but it felt like this to me. It's like when you see the shadow side of the Enneagram number, you go, oh yeah, that's me. Oh yeah. It's almost easy.
Yeah.
Right. Wow. I am super scattered. And yeah, when I'm really in pain, I want to run. Right. So there's some of that stuff that really resonated for me. I think it was sometimes the shadow stuff that really got me more than the fun stuff about being a 7.
Well, and to your point, I always tell folks in my Enneagram workshop, if there's a number that makes you cringe extra, you need to look at that number closer.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
yes.
It's
so
funny because when people know the Enneagram, I notice that if they get to know the Enneagram and they know me, they're like, oh, I know what you are. It's like, yeah, I know. It's fairly obvious.
And 7 is such a fun number. I mean, all the numbers are great in their own way. 7s really have, a zest for life. And you are one of the most active people I've ever met in terms of like having a full calendar by choice. And so, talking about the activities that you're doing on a day to day, with Salt and Light, with, your previous history of coaching with your boys, with everything that you have going on right now, do you feel like these activities speak to your Enneagram archetype?
I do. Interestingly, the CEO part of it, I don't think does. And I'm finding that out really quickly. But I was kind of the visionary behind Salt and Light Works. And so it followed we're in the beginning stages of this nonprofit. And it followed that as the visionary, I would be the CEO. I imagine someday that won't be the case. The CEO work is not my absolute favorite work. It's just not. I mean, I don't love HR. I don't love cutting paychecks. I don't particularly love managing work plans. You know what I mean? And I love people, but I'm way into relationship and I'm not so much into administration.
Yeah.
However, the work of helping people get into their homes and helping people lifting them up and off the streets, I don't know if that's 7ness or it just feels great. It's interesting though, when I think about the village that we're building. So I didn't really say this really clearly. We're building a village that is a permanent supportive housing village that it will be complete with wraparound services, micro enterprises, and homes. And my 7ness, I can't stop thinking of ways to create micro enterprise. It's like, oh,
Yeah.
have them make bath salts. Ooh, we could have a bakery. Ooh, it's like, you know, all the things I've ever really wanted to do with my life and thought I might, you know, food truck operator, restaurant person, have a farm. How about goats? You know, all those things.
Yep,
I can
yep.
tie it in because it's a city. So I have to
That's
be careful, you know. So it's nice to have people who are like really grounded around budget and you know, things that can bring me back to the ground, bring me back down to reality for right now. But it does help cultivate creativity. And I feel like, yes, that is that part of my work and the busyness of it. Right now, there are so many puzzle pieces to put together. It creates a busyness for me. But it's interesting we talk about having a full schedule. As I've gotten more self-aware, as I've gotten older, and as I've gotten busier, and some of the things that are in my life there have come into sharp focus in terms of importance. I've really scaled back on the full calendar and really tried to have the full. If it's going to be full, at least a lot of slots for margin. Yeah,
yeah,
because
yeah. That's good.
I can't.
That's healthy.
It's been a hard practice. It's a hard practice for a 7. That's me. Because you always want to go the next thing to kind of run from the pain of burnout, loneliness, fear. But as I've turned to things like yoga, margin, time away, a lot of time by myself, it has really
Mm-hmm.
helped my creativity. So it's actually helped my 7ness, but it's really a practice because I think, you tell me if I'm getting this right, but as I understand it, 7s really like to, when they're really feeling those things, they want to run and go find something else fun to do, right?
Yes, and I think for a seven's motivation is satisfaction, and when you think about things that sevens build, a lot of times what happens is they're satisfied with the inception because sevens live their minds live in the future, which speaks exactly to what you were talking about with the micro businesses or micro enterprises, and so they tend to, once the real life sets in and the dust settles and it's not as full of zest and excitement, they can lose interest. And
Yep.
so they move to the next thing because they need that adrenaline, they need that rush, that life rush, um, to
Yep.
um, to keep them from having to deal with deeper emotions that they're guarding from. But having said that, to your point, when a seven is self-aware, they are extremely, extremely powerful because they will follow through and close the loop on the thing, but they will also identify if that thing is truly a passion or if it's a fleeting moment and be able to tell the difference. And that will help drive home closing the loop. And then the other piece that you spoke to that I want to strongly affirm is the idea of that CEO role. There are plenty of sevens that are CEOs, but to your point, they're visionaries. And so often, if they're the CEOs, they're going to be delegating a lot of that administrative stuff as their companies grow and depending on the scale of their company to others so that they can hold the vision and keep moving in the future. So, definitely resonates a lot. I have a comment here from Sober Sis. Y'all are making so much sense to me. I'm a 1 married to a 7, but I also have that 7 arrow. Yes, you do. That's right. And that 7 arrow is very healthy for a 1 because it allows the 1 to loosen up a little bit, really enjoy life, and settle into doing things to satisfy them, not just because they're right or wrong. So, all right, Adrianne, let's talk about your type's motivation. So it's a good segue to that. So the motivation is satisfaction. These are typically developed during childhood. And so I'm wondering if you could share a little bit about your childhood to the extent that you're comfortable and what event or events or circumstances really enabled this development of this type of motivation.
So, I mean, would it follow that it would be areas of dissatisfaction that would make me need more satisfaction? Would that be correct?
Absolutely. Yes.
Yeah. I would say, especially during that 8 to 13-year-old, those years,
Mm-hmm.
those were some hard years for me. Harder than I realized. Now that I'm doing a lot more therapy, I'm realizing how hard those years actually were for me.
Mm-hmm.
I lived out in the country. So we lived out about 25 miles or 25 minutes out of like town, like where I went to high school. And so any major activity, my mom my parents had 4 kids.
Mm-hmm.
And to be frank, it wasn't, the happiest household, for lots of reasons. But my mom had 4 kids, 4 girls, and we all wanted to do things like dance, voice lessons. I was in a theater group. I did get to be in a theater group and I loved it, but I needed voice lessons. I wanted some dance lessons. Like I wanted to try some of those things out, and those were just not going to be options for a while. We ended up kind of phasing into it. My mom did a lot of driving back and forth, so I want to give her credit because she really did try, but it's a lot with 4 kids and there was just a lot going on. And I think that constant yearning for what's going on in town, right? What's happening, in town.
The FOMO.
The FOMO. And I don't remember if that was like, that happened after I started developing this, or if they said, I don't know if that's actually a core part of me or not. I'm not sure, but I remember having those yearnings. And living that far out doesn't give you a lot of options in terms of food, trying things, not a lot of convenience. It's kind of like you get what you get, you don't throw a fit type of thing, especially when you or kids. There was a lot of that. So I think those things would be shaping. And if I think about my school life and my social life at that time, I would tell you that I think my core wound, as far as I see it, is a real sense of not belonging. Which is probably why I so value this work, because when folks are extricated to the absolute margins, those are my people, right? Not that I've necessarily been extricated to the absolute margins, but I mean, it resonates with my core wound. And so I didn't feel like I really belonged in my family for several reasons. I just didn't, my mom really, to keep law and order, and I think it was just a different time, was the rule of the day, and I just was unable to conform. My older sister was better about conforming, and so that really left me feeling not like I belonged.
Yep.
And at school, I didn't have a lot of females in my class, a lot of boys, and I got along with them well, but as I started to get into adolescence, I really started to feel that pang of need of friends. And so I did find a group of girlfriends that were actually the grade below me, and it turned out to be a disaster. Because once you're out, you know how this is with girls. Once you're out, you're kind of out. And it was a mess. Really, I ended up in 8th grade. My dad was on the school board, and there were some issues with teachers, and my parents were concerned that we weren't being treated correctly. And I don't think they were wrong, but because am I doing okay? Can you hear me?
It went out for
me?
a second. You lost you at your dad was on the school board. Can you hear me?
Okay.
Can you hear me?
Yeah. Yeah. Yes.
Yes.
Can you
Okay.
a little lag?
Yep. I think we're good. Okay, where I lost you was your dad's on the school board.
Yeah. And so there were some problems, and they thought that the teachers weren't treating us really well. So they were concerned. So they talked about moving us schools. And as I was having these problems with these young ladies, I jumped at the chance to leave the school that I had gone to from kindergarten to 8th grade. So did not graduate my 8th grade class. I ended up going to another school, which ended up being crazy. I was Catholic, and I had not ever gotten out of my Catholic bubble. And I went to this school that was not Catholic, and I was the only Catholic kid there. And I didn't realize that Protestant folks at that time, I'm not saying everyone does, so just disclaimer, but at that time, my teacher told my class on my second day of school that, yes, Catholics do go to hell because they worship statues.
Wow.
And so that was really, so there's some trauma. You can hear there's some trauma in the area. And so lots of dissatisfaction in a lot of areas of my life at that point. And if I can remember, like, just floating up and out and just wanting to go do things and try things. And, I always say, you start looking for love in all the wrong places. 7s are notorious for that. If they are not feeling loved because of their need to run from hard feelings, you start looking for love in all the wrong places. And I did. And thankfully, I was grounded in really good grades. I had good grades, and I enjoyed academic excellence. So some of those things really helped to ground me, to not get me too far off the grid. But yeah, I would say I feel like those formative years really got this 7-ness going.
For sure.
I don't know.
So there were a couple of things that stuck out to me. One is I want to touch on your 8 wing here because you have a strong affinity for the marginalized because you have experienced some sort of marginalization in your past in terms of the bullying and what you experienced in school. And often 8s are innate protectors, and they're constantly seeking justice for the underdog. And so I think that your profession, with Salt and Light, and your instinct for being able to empathize and really understand the marginalized groups that you are representing and that you're protecting really does speak not only to your 7ness, but to your 8 wing. And so, I want to call that out. The second thing that is a signature 7 thing is 7s do not like boundaries. So you
No.
give a 7 a boundary, they are going to disregard it or be very unhappy about it, one or the other. And so, you definitely mentioned there was a lot of parameters. First of all, you grew up Catholic. But second of all, your parameters within your original school, all of that sheltered boundary set area, living out in the country. I think that also speaks to your need for that steady pace of newness and satisfaction. So yeah, absolutely. All of that really defines a story of a childhood that speaks to an adult 7, for sure.
Okay, that's good that it makes some sense.
It makes all the sense in the world, and it makes sense to your wing as well. So how has this helped you with motherhood? How has the Enneagram helped you with motherhood?
Well, I think, for me, growing up with so much rigidity, as I first started out in motherhood, I also was in a marriage that was not, how do I say this? This,
Uh-oh. I lost you. Can you hear me?
Yep.
I'm going to have to
Did you
find
lose me all the way?
something. No, you're good. I'm going to, the next series I do will be an alternate to IG Live because as much as I love this, the reception is frustrating. So I'm sorry for that.
Yeah.
So let's go back to motherhood. And you had
Okay.
said you were touching on your first marriage.
Yeah. So I felt angry a lot of the time and frustrated inside the marriage. And then little kids, it's hard. I mean, when you've never raised them before. And then I had been raised in such a rigid environment that I kind of started implementing that, but it didn't feel like the real me. So there was a real tug. But interestingly, when my kids were little, when I actually divorced their dad, which was a really hard time. However, the real me started to emerge after that, because I had stopped becoming. I had done a lot of becoming, like Glennon talks about in Love Warrior. I did a lot of becoming. If you're going to be a good wife, you do this. You drive a Suburban, you do these things, right? Or you drive whatever. You just start becoming. And as I started shedding those things after my divorce, it really started to help me in motherhood because I started becoming really spontaneous, and that lit my children up. I mean, I felt like that spontaneity, that true self, it felt really aligned when I started doing that. When we started being more spontaneous, more fun, doing more things together as a family, my kids really started to blossom under that. I think we were kind of in a flow. Yeah. But it's interesting how different I was prior. It's interesting what happens when you become, right? Because I've always fought. Yeah, I looked at that 7 stuff and realized how much of that I fought as a result of some rigidity. And it really helped me to open up and live into that 7ness, but also to learn how to, my kids a lot of times will have paperwork that doesn't get back to school on time, and there's some scattered nature about a 7 because I'm doing so many things. And it's hard because socially it's not cool to be unorganized, right? Socially, it's like Oh, she's so scattered. And so I've had to do some real therapy around embracing the spontaneity, trying to work on organizational skills without hurting myself. Is that, I don't know how else to say it, without trying to like kill my own true nature and spirit.
Sure. Like doing
Right?
it for doing it for the sake of giving yourself a better space, as opposed to doing it because people expect you to be more organized, right?
Right.
Doing it for
Right.
yourself, which
Right.
can be a fine line, because it's easy, especially one, as women, two, as moms, three, as working moms. Like, I mean, my house is just piles everywhere right now. But you know what? We're in the middle of a pandemic, and I am not the most organized person, and I'm fine with that. I get stuff done. My record shows that. Your record shows that. So it's kind of like, get organized to the extent that it helps you, and then
Yeah.
the rest can just, I don't know, bite me.
That's, because my kids have other people in their lives that are like, and I bite me. That's actually perfect, because we have other people in their lives that are like super duper organized, and in some ways these sometimes folks compare themselves to me, and I'm like, you know what? So I'm unorganized, but I really feel like that openness that a 7 brings has really helped to nurture my children's best selves and
Yep.
let them live in who they actually are, rather than
Right.
overlay the rigidity of needing to be perfectly organized. And so I think they're starting to learn that the consequences of that organization sometimes are kind of like, I think they enjoy the fun. I think they enjoy that on Wednesday nights, and it's not as spontaneous anymore, but on Wednesday nights when they get home from being gone, at Dad's, we go to A&W and we go get root beer floats and freezes. And my oldest son is learning how to drive, so we let him drive us, which is always an adventure, right? Oh
Yes.
my God. Oh my gosh. But, and I think my kids enjoy that stuff. And yeah, they might come home and we walk through the back door and all their shoes are, it's partly them and partly me, but like all their shoes are thrown into the little organizational thing that we have in the back that's supposed to be organized, and it's not. I think they'd take those root beer floats over those organized shoes any day of the week.
Absolutely. And it's all about time, right? You spoke about margin earlier, like margin of time. That's our most valuable asset. And sometimes, there's definitely been some moms that I've interviewed that have been wonderful, and talked about, different tips and tricks on cleaning and organizing that could help you keep up. And I love that. But there again, it's the balance, right? Of making sure that some of that time is allocated to just being with your kids. And
Yep.
if it's gonna be a choice between me vacuuming my floors or spending the morning, making pancakes and eating breakfast with my kids, I'm going to do the breakfast and
Yep.
take, and feel alive, And so now some people, cleaning makes them feel alive, and that's great. That's all, more power to them. And please come over to my house and feel alive all you want. But,
Right.
but, just generally speaking, that there, you have to monitor and do like kind of a cost benefit analysis of what the thing is that needs to get done versus the time with your kids.
Right. What's that opportunity cost? Yeah.
Yeah.
And so for us to choose the fun thing.
Yeah. Yep.
And
Every time, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
So with that being said, obviously that would be a definitely a piece of advice from a 7 to offer to parents. Think about your time and allocate some of that to fun. What other secrets or tips or tricks could you share that speak to your Enneagram strengths that you would recommend to other parents?
Well, I mean, I think, yeah, no, I mean, we kind of touched on, I think what the biggest thing is just kind of, hey, there's that spontaneity is really not to be overlooked. That fun to have with your kids is not to be overlooked. I know things need to get done, but if they have to eat frozen corn dogs so that you all can play basketball or shoot some hoops in the backyard instead of making a full-blown stew. I mean, I'm a cook. I love to cook, and I get myself in this rut sometimes of like, I get it in my head that we are having smoked meatloaf tonight. Like, that is happening, right? And it's like, everyone would have been, I've learned that then I'm sometimes resentful and I'm sad and I'm tired by the end of making this big meal. And the kids are like, they could have eaten corn dogs if mom was just like not so stressed, and we could have played a session of VR or shot some hoops in the backyard. I've learned that lesson. And I would say
Yeah.
that is I would definitely say that if I had to do it over again when my kids were really little, that is what I would have changed, because I was trying so hard to trying so hard to be organized and take soup to people when somebody died, and, you know, always be the person that was there for everyone. I mean, there was a lot of looking for love in all the wrong places, a lot of chasing, a lot of culturally people because I thought I was supposed to, and doing. And my kids missed some things there, right? My kids, my kids missed some things. Some of that was sevenness too. It's like chasing things when things got hard at home. It's like I was doing things outside the home. And I'd say as a 7, or any other number for that matter, try to bring those energies back home and do stuff that's fun with the kids. I mean, because dang, if you saw my son who's out in the front room doing virtual learning, who's 17 and he's towering over me now, I think how, I know everyone says this, you know, they, in the blink of an eye, it's like, actually, it's true. I look at him and I'm like, how did he get so big? And I know that sounds so, you know, oh, spend every moment with your kids. It's like, dang, there's some fun to be had if you can let loose. Motherhood thing's tough, and especially when you white knuckle it.
Yes. Oh God, I think that's it right there, right? We got to stop white knuckling it and just, you know,
down the notch.
Yeah, I love it. Thank you. Well, with that being said, I just want to thank you so much for spending some time with me. And, you know, it's always awesome to get together and talk. And this was fantastic. I really appreciate it. And you know what's crazy is all 3 interviews this week are 7s. So you're kicking off the week of 7s. I don't know why that is, but all 3 this week are 7. So thank you for your great insight. And, you know, I'm so proud of you and everything that you're doing to change your community, which will have an impact. It will have an impact on our country, the work that you're doing. And, you know, I'm in awe, and I love watching you feel alive and do your thing.
Well, same with you, Miss Thing. I'm thrilled with the work you're doing, as you know, and women everywhere are going to be grateful for the work, trailblazing work you're doing and are going to do. I am very proud of you as well.
Thank you. Thanks, A. Well, listen, have a great day. Thanks again. Enjoy the beach. I'm jealous.
Oh, I'm going home after this.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, safe travels then, and tell your family I said hi. All right.
I will. Love you.
Okay. Love you too. Bye. All right, what a great interview. And that was Adrianne Hillman joining us from California. The reception, all things said, wasn't bad. Anyway, as I said earlier, a special thank you to Fit Philosophy for sponsoring this episode. Fit Philosophy has a major giveaway going on right now where you can win a fall part 2 session fit camp, which starts next Monday. That's 4 weeks of exercise at $150 value. We actually didn't have a huge amount of viewers on this morning, so I'm going to open this up. If you watch this video and comment in the comments after I post it on my feed, you will enter a drawing for this fall fit camp. So thank you so much for watching. And on Wednesday, I hope you'll join me at 9 a.m. Eastern when I will have Lauren Hurt Ashwin, who is a 7 as well, and she uses both wings. She's from Irving, Texas, and I can't wait until that interview. So thanks again for joining, and talk to you soon. Bye.